her knees pressed against the freezing pavement, hands trembling as she fought to keep a stranger alive. Around her, footsteps hurried away, eyes turned aside, as if his life and hers were invisible. "Don't touch him!" a voice barked, suspicion dripping from every word. For a split second, doubt clawed at her, but she refused to let go. What she didn't know was that the man gasping for air was no ordinary person, and her one act of courage would ignite a chain of events that changed everything. This is the story of a life saved and a future rewritten. The city never made life easy for people like Maya. Each morning began before dawn, when the streets were still quiet, and the cold seemed to sink into her bones. She worked 2 jobs, cleaning offices by day, waiting tables by night, yet the bills never seemed to shrink. Her tiny apartment carried the scent of damp wood and flickering light bulbs, but it was all she could afford. Even so, Maya carried herself with quiet strength. She refused to let struggle erase her dignity. The sidewalks she walked each day had become a map of her resilience. She knew which alleys to avoid after dark, which corners carried unfriendly stares, and which bus routes meant whispers about her skin, her hair, her clothes. Some people treated her as though she were invisible, while others looked at her as though she were out of place. Still, she kept moving forward, head high, heart steady. Maya dreamed of more, a future where survival wasn't her only focus. She longed to study, to create, to build something lasting. But between racism that locked doors and poverty that chained her down, her ambitions often felt like distant stars, unreachable no matter how long she stared. That night, the city buzzed with its usual noise, sirens in the distance, car horns echoing through narrow streets. Maya adjusted her worn jacket against the chill as she hurried home, her mind weighed down by another exhausting shift. She didn't know that fate was waiting just steps ahead, in the form of a stranger she'd never seen before. It began quietly, almost too easily overlooked, a man stumbling near the curb, clutching his chest, his figure collapsing against the unforgiving pavement. People walked by without slowing, their eyes darting away as though his life was an inconvenience. But Maya stopped. Something inside her froze, then pushed her forward. What she couldn't have known in that moment was simple. This man was no ordinary stranger. And the decision she made to kneel beside him, to care when others didn't, was about to alter the course of her entire future. Maya dropped to her knees, the cold pavement biting through her jeans as she leaned over the man. His breathing was shallow, his lips trembling as though words were fighting to escape, but couldn't. The crowd around them seemed to scatter rather than come to their aid. Some muttered about being late, others didn't even slow down. A few stared briefly before walking faster, the way people often did when a problem wasn't theirs to solve. Her heart pounded. She pressed her fingers to his wrist, desperate for a pulse. It was faint, but there. She shouted for help, her voice cracking against the city's indifference. Cars rushed by, headlights flashing across the scene, but no one pulled over. It was the same silence she had known all her life, the kind that told her she was on her own. She remembered stories of black women ignored in emergencies, their pleas dismissed, their pain underestimated. That memory burned in her chest. She wasn't about to let another life be lost to society's carelessness. With trembling hands, she tilted his head, checking his airway, doing what she had once learned from an old community class. The man gasped, then slumped again, his face pale in the streetlight. Finally, a car door slammed nearby. A white man in a suit approached but didn't step closer. Instead, he barked, "Don't touch him! You'll make it worse." His words cut through the air like a blade. Maya's body stiffened, rage and humiliation crawling up her spine. Here she was, the only one helping, and still she was treated as if her presence was a threat. But she refused to move. "Call an ambulance!" she shouted back, her voice steady despite the knot in her throat. The man frowned, muttered something about liability, and pulled out his phone with apparent reluctance. Minutes felt like hours. Kneeling there, Maya felt the weight of both the man's life and the judgment pressing down on her. Sirens finally pierced the night, and paramedics rushed forward. Yet even as they took over, One of them looked at her with suspicion. His eyes lingered longer than necessary, scanning her as though she were responsible instead of the one who acted. She was told to step back, to wait away from the man she had just fought to keep alive. Her hands shook, not from fear, but from anger. She had been invisible before, but now she felt accused by implication. She walked to the side, arms wrapped around herself, watching as they lifted the stranger into the ambulance. She half expected to be questioned, maybe even blamed. That was the world she knew, where skin color could twist the truth. But just before the ambulance doors closed, something shifted. The stranger's eyes fluttered open for a brief moment. His gaze locked on hers. Weak as he was, he gave a subtle nod, a silent acknowledgement that she had been the one who stayed when others walked away. Maya turned and began the walk home. Her body ached, her mind replaying the scene in relentless loops. She had saved a life tonight, yet all she carried with her was exhaustion and the sting of judgment. She didn't know who the man was, and she didn't expect to ever see him again. To her, he was just another face swallowed by the city. What she couldn't imagine was that this single act, kneeling on a dirty street while the world ignored her, had placed her at the center of a story that would soon test every limit of her courage, dignity, and hope. The man she had saved wasn't just anyone, and the truth about him would surface in a way that shattered everything she thought she knew about her own future. Days later, Maya's life returned to its usual rhythm of exhaustion, early mornings, late nights, and the quiet weight of being unseen. She had almost convinced herself that the man she helped was just another fleeting encounter, a story that would fade like the others. But fate had different plans. One evening, as she wiped down tables in the diner, two sleek black cars pulled up outside. Men in tailored suits entered, their presence commanding attention. Whispers filled the room as customers shrank back. They weren't looking for trouble, they were looking for her. Maya's chest tightened. The lead man stepped forward and quietly asked her name. Before she could react, he handed her a sealed envelope. Her fingers trembled as she opened it and her heart skipped. It was a formal letter of gratitude, signed by one of the wealthiest businessmen in the city, the very man she had saved on that cold street. But beneath the gratitude was something far more shocking, an invitation. The billionaire wanted to meet her personally. The man the world bowed to was requesting the company of a woman who had been dismissed and ignored her entire life. For a moment, disbelief crashed over her. People around the diner stared, some with envy, while others looked on with suspicion. The same faces that once overlooked her now buzzed with curiosity. Maya realized she had stepped into something far bigger than she could have ever imagined. Her act of kindness had not only saved a life, it had opened a door she never knew existed. Dear audience, where are you watching from? Drop your city name in the comments. The following week unfolded like something from a dream Maya never dared to dream. She was escorted into a towering glass building that seemed to scrape the sky, its lobby buzzing with people who usually ignored women like her. Now they turned to stare, not with dismissal, but with curiosity. At the top floor, she finally met him, the billionaire whose life she had saved. His face was pale from recovery, but his eyes were steady, filled with something she had rarely seen in the powerful: gratitude. He thanked her, not just with words, but with action. He told her she had reminded him of something money could never buy: humanity. In return, he offered her an opportunity that would change everything: a scholarship to finish her education, a position in one of his companies where her voice would matter, a chance to step out from the shadows society forced her into. Maya felt tears burn her eyes, not from weakness, but from the weight of finally being seen. For years she had been treated as invisible, yet, in a single moment of compassion, she had rewritten her entire story. The impact rippled beyond her. People in her community heard what had happened, and for the first time, many felt a sense of hope stir within them. If Maya, overlooked, underestimated, could be recognized for her strength, maybe they could too. This wasn't just about saving a life. It was about saving a life. It was about reclaiming dignity in a world that tried to strip it away. but the question lingered, hanging heavy in the air. Why does it take saving a billionaire for a black woman's worth to finally be recognized? Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more powerful stories. And tell us in the comments, what would you have done in Maya's place?